Hi, it's Andy, and today I'm giving you my February wrap-up. In the month of February, I read quite a few books. I'm actually surprised. I did also DNF like 4. Please excuse the squeaky chair. I can never do anything about it. And also please forgive me if I look a bit ill. I am a bit ill. I've got a bit of an infected wisdom tooth, and it's just running me down a little bit on top of everything else. So please forgive me if I look a bit run down. That is just how it is. Okay, I'm going to try and stop squeaking the chair, but it's very difficult. So, I'm basically going to go through my wrap up for February. I'm actually quite happy at how many books, not necessarily how many books I got read, but how many books I managed to get off of my TBR. Because I did DNF 4 books, I believe, maybe 3, but I'll let you know at the time when I'm going through my books. So if you don't know the first thing I read in February, then where have you been? I read Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. You can see where the foilings come off the book, which is unfortunate. I got this on the 31st and immediately started reading it and didn't get too far through, and because I got it in the afternoon, finished it on the 1st of February. This is the conclusion to the Last Hours trilogy by Cassandra Clare. You can see the gap there where it's going to go when I'm finished this. There's not much I can say about this because it's the 3rd in a trilogy, which is like the 4th in a group of other novels, but this is a book set in the Shadowhunter world in like Victorian, Edwardian. I'm not quite sure what time period it's in, but it's the children of the group in the Clockwork Prince, Princess Angel trilogy, and it's just the conclusion to that. I love this. 5 stars, absolutely perfect. Well, not quite perfect, but like, we can't always have what we want, so it's fine. Next up was the read that I was supposed to read in January but dropped to read, Chain of Iron, and that is A Conjuring of Light by V. Schwab. This is the 3rd book in the Shades of Magic trilogy, which will be extended with the Threads of Power that are coming out at some point in the next year or so. This is read for the Schwab-along with the Schwab-along group, and I absolutely love this. I listened to the audiobook. It wasn't as good as the previous audiobook for A Gathering of Shadows, but again, end of a trilogy. Can't really tell you what it's about. So basically, this is about our main character, Kel, who is an Antiri, who is a magic user who can move between the 4 Londons. So there are 4 Londons based, and they're all based on a kind of magic system. So there's Red London, where Kel is from, and Red London is thriving and has magic and is sort of beautiful and alive and wondrous, and has this royal family that Kel is part of, who rule them fairly, and people, you know, they like their royal family, blah blah blah. It's a good place to be. There is Grey London, which is basically our London in the 1700s-ish. It's one of the King Georges, the mad King George that's on the throne. So that is Grey London. And then there is White London, which has almost died. So White London used to be like Red London, where they had all the magic, but the magic has been sucked out of it, and the people are clawing at any sort of magic they can get at. It's a very barren place. It is very cold and just unwelcoming, and the people there are quite vicious because of it, and it's ruled by people who can barely hold the throne because it's such a cutthroat world. And then there is Black London, in which magic took over and started devouring the world. So the doors to each of these Londons used to be wide open and anybody could travel back and forward, but nowadays the doors have been shut. Red London shut the door on all of them to stop Black London spreading. And the way it works, sort of, Black London is up against White London, which is up against Red London, which is up against Grey London. So White London are kind of left on their own to hold back the magic and the sort of consuming magic in Black London. So they feel a bit bitter about that, which is, you know, understandable. And this trilogy basically follows Kel and other people when things go awry. It is such a good book, such a good magic system, and I love this trilogy, love the characters. V. Schwab just absolutely hit this trilogy out of the park. This is my 2nd read, I think, of this, and it just gets better every time I read it. The next thing I read was an ebook which is Locked Up Liars by Elle Thorpe. This is the start of a new trilogy which is for the States View. So States View Psychos was the first trilogy that I read. This follows a family who are in, or characters that are in that trilogy, but are not the main sort of characters. So it follows them and how they met and how, you know, they ended up together, blah blah blah, that sort of thing. And it was interesting. It's an interesting read. So it's set where I can barely remember what happened, but someone is put into jail for killing May, who's the main character, her brother, but she doesn't believe they killed her brother. She knows for a fact they didn't kill her brother. So to try and help prove his innocence, she pairs up with this lawyer and all who she knew from like university, but she also takes a job as a teacher at the prison where he is, and is sort of trying to keep an eye on him. And you meet other characters there. It's just so, because you know how it ends up because of Saints Be Psychos, it's just like getting to know them, which I absolutely loved. It was really funny as well because there's a character who in this trilogy is actually quite scary, very much like the kill first, ask questions later, but in Saints Be Psychos he's actually a giant cinnamon roll, and I love him. And it's so funny watching May be terrified of this person that I know wouldn't hurt her, like, for anything, because she becomes one of his favourite people in the world. So like, he loves her, but like not like love, like, but he just loves her as a friend. So it's really funny watching her be scared of him, to know that I know that he's a giant cinnamon roll. But that's beyond the point. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't know, it's on KU, as are all of Elle Thorpe's books. I don't know if I will continue the trilogy or not. It wasn't my favourite, but we shall see. Next up, I finally bit the bullet and read It Came From the Deep by Maria Lewis. This is a self-published edition of a short story-ish that she wrote to go with this series here, which is the Supernatural Sisters. This is about Kaya and Amos, who is a Selkie, and basically she is an Iron Woman, so she does it's like ridiculous kind of triathlons and surfing and water sports and things like that, but it's like testing your endurance. It's all based in Australia. And she meets Amos. Obviously he's a Selkie, you know, magical creature. He saves her life, and then she decides that she needs to kind of help him as well. It's just how these two meet. Like, they are in these books, but you don't get to see how they met. And so she wrote this for, I think, her blog or something, and so many people were like, you need to publish this, that she was like, okay, I will publish it. So she self-published it, which is why it's so expensive and so hard to get hold of. But I absolutely adored this. I loved meeting Kaya, getting to see her family background, getting to know a bit more about Amos and see sort of where he started, because he's very confused because he was taken from his family, Selkie family, as a very young child, so doesn't have any memories of that. He's only been around humans, and only one human, so it's a whole learning curve for him, and it's just such a good story, and I love it. I literally keep saying the Maria Lewis can't write a bad book, and I will stand by that. Absolutely will stand by that. On the other side of the coin, I started and DNF'd Meet Me in Hawaii. This book I was so stoked for. The premise of this book is fantastic, and the first one, which was Meet Me in London, was decent. It was a good book. It was poorly written. Just you could tell that the author hadn't gotten her feet under her when it came to writing, and unfortunately the writing style just went downhill in this one for me. I couldn't keep up with it. The conversations are all very like cardboard, like these are not real conversations that people would have, and it was too much, so I had to DNF it, which was unfortunate because the whole premise of this is that the main character is she has run away from England where she lives, or where she was brought up, moves to Hawaii to live with her uncle and do lessons at a surf shop. And she's doing a charity auction basically to raise money to do sort of surf therapy for people who have disabilities, people who have mental health issues, children and young people who have issues because they are in some way disadvantaged. So foster kids, kids who like have a hard time at school, like, you know, that sort of program. And the way she describes it and looks at people who have invisible illnesses as well as people who have visible disabilities. I absolutely love this character. I love the concept. I thought it was absolutely perfect the way she covered that, but the actual writing itself was just not one that meshed with me at all, and I just really couldn't do it, so this will be getting unhauled. Next is one that it's strange to say I enjoyed, but it's The Five by Hallie Rubenhold. It's the untold lives of the women killed by Jack the Ripper, and basically each chapter goes through the lives from kind of birth to death of each of these women and what is known about them and the lives they lived and the lives that people lived in general around this time, and the way that they have been disadvantaged by being women and single women and sort of second, third, fourth, fifth children of their families in a time where it was very difficult to sort of keep everybody. This I absolutely loved this. No wonder it won the Women's Prize. Baillie Gifford Prize for non-fiction. This really does give a voice to the women that were killed by Jack the Ripper, and there's no sensationalising the way they were killed. There's not even mention of it, just of their families, any news of the families being told about it. For example, one of the last times one of the women was seen was walking down an alleyway, and then it cuts to the next day. The police were called because someone had found her body. It doesn't sensationalise the way they were killed. It doesn't go into that. It goes into them as women, goes into them as people, their lives, their ups, their downs, things like that. It gives these women a voice, and it's something that has been taken away from them for years because of what Jack the Ripper did to them. And I really appreciate that, and I absolutely loved it. And some of the visuals were really good as well. There's actually photographs and sections of things in there, so like photographs of the women and their families and newspapers and things at the time. So yeah, if it's something you are interested in, I would definitely recommend this, but just bear in mind that these women unfortunately didn't have happy lives. The next one was one that was a massive surprise to me, and that was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. This book does nothing but make me smile. It is just such a good read. It's so quiet and soft and gentle and beautiful in the way that it's put together. The writing style is fantastic, and it literally is just the journey that they are taking to get from where they are to this planet. And because they're on a ship that punches wormholes, basically, so you can travel from one area to another, but because the place they need to punch to has such a thin almost reality, I suppose, like they can't just punch through it because it'll just disintegrate and cause like a black hole or something to form, so they have to travel there like normally and then punch in from that side. They talk you through it. It makes sense when they talk you through it, but this just follows the crew and their journey there. It's very much kind of reminds me of like Firefly and other things like that. Absolutely loved it. The crew reminded me so much of Firefly. Like the mechanic in this and Kaylee, the mechanic in Firefly, are very similar. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the diversity that was in this as well. I loved the discussions it had about AI and personhood and plastic surgery and things like that. I'm so looking forward to reading the next one this month. But I'm so glad I picked this up finally. I've been putting it off, but it was just such a nice time. The next thing I read was something that I was so fortunate to be able to get hold of, and that is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I can't quite remember much about this book because I don't have it in front of me, but it is basically about this main character whose name I cannot remember, and she does she's a professor of some kind, but she doesn't really get paid very much because she's under this guy who's a bit of a dick, if I'm being honest. And at night, to sort of help pay her bills, she works as a fake girlfriend. So she goes to like events and stuff with people to pretend that they've got a girlfriend so that their family got off their backs. Which is, a great concept. And then turns out the job that she's then going to interview for, one of the guys that is in charge of her getting her place is the brother of one of the guys she's fake dating. Now he thinks that she's actually dating the brother and is lying to him because they have like a cover story and the cover story doesn't match a reality. So he's trying to figure that out while she's trying not to out the brother as having a fake girlfriend. And so there's this like weird like will they, like, what's going on sort of thing around them. And then behind the scenes he's also just been like amazing, because like what happens in the bathroom, you'll figure it out. You'll know when you read the book, because you will read the book. I'm telling you, you need to. This is my favourite. Our love interest, whose name again I can't remember, is the best. Like, I messaged Becca because I knew she read it, and I was like, the rest of these men can step aside. Adam Carlson, who, this guy is who it's all about, and I can't remember his name, and that's so annoying. I hate myself. I need to reread it. I might reread it this month again. But I loved him so much. He has geeky tattoos, but he's also built, and he's just a sweetheart, and he's just, I love him so much. I love him so much. But yeah, since it was an arc and it's not out until June or July, June. I'm not going to say much more. Just please, please, please pre-order this if you've not already, because this is the best thing that Ali Hazelwood has written, hands down. I bow down to you, Ali, because this book was absolutely incredible, and it will take a lot to top that for me. The next one again was one that I ended up DNFing, and that is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. So many people thought that I was going to like this book, but I got like 171 pages in, and I was like, if I continue to read this, I'm going to bludgeon myself with the book. I just didn't like it. I didn't like the characters. None of the characters were endearing to me. Didn't care about the plot. Didn't care about the magic system. It just fell flat for me. It just was not for me. I can totally see why other people like this. I can absolutely see why other people would like this, but it just was not for me. I mean, when I read the synopsis, when it first came out, I was like, I'm not going to like this book, and unfortunately I was right, but it's okay, because as you can see from the shiny cover, I got it from the library. So this will be going back to the library day after tomorrow, and then I don't have to think about it ever again. Next up, I read The No Show by Beth O'Leary. Beth O'Leary was on a bit of a funny standing with me, because I hated the road trip. Like, I really did not like the road trip. It was so cliche. It was so just ugh. So yeah, I didn't like it. But however, this book, again, like with Ali Hazelwood, this is the best thing that she's ever written. I did not know what was going on half the time. It is about 3 women who on Valentine's Day are all stood up by the same man, one at breakfast, one at lunch, one at dinner. And then the next day he appears and he is basically trying to explain it, but is also hiding something. And you go through each of these relationships that he has, just like as he's kind of ducking and dodging questions and acting really weird. And it's one of those books where you think one thing, and then all of a sudden something happens and it twists the narrative, and you're like, oh my god. Like, it hit me. And then the end of this book made me sob so much. I was literally talking about it to Kate before I was vlogging, or like after I was vlogging it, and she was sitting like at the foot of my chair, like kneeling down at the foot of my chair with her hand on my knee, because I was blubbering so much, just absolutely breaking my heart, explaining what happened to her. Like, these are fictional characters. There is a trigger warning that I would say for some people about this book, but I also don't want to say it because it ruins the twist. So yeah, maybe just look at trigger warnings if you think there's if there's a possibility of you reading it. I will say it's like grief based. So just go into it knowing that, because it's not the kind of, like, I was not in the headspace, which is probably why I was so upset reading it, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The next book I read was If Only by Melanie Murphy. This book again had me sobbing. There's one scene that had me like sobbing and laughing at the same time, because her gran is hilarious. This is about Erin, who is about to turn 30, and her life is a shambles. She has just broken off her engagement to this guy who had an absolutely horrible monster-in-law. She has just moved into this 2-bedroom apartment in London with this girl that she barely knows, and is working a crappy job that is in a cafe where her boss is a creep, and she's getting paid peanuts basically and not using her incredible degree. So yeah, basically her life's a mess, and then she goes back home to Ireland for her birthday, and her gran gives her this necklace, this Tree of Life necklace that has been passed down in the family for hundreds of years, and she says that it allows you to see your what ifs. So you give it an if only. It's like, if only I had. So one of them is like, if only I'd gone to my friend's birthday party that night, for example, and it then shows you that day. So it's this day in history, like, so say it's like this day now, and but it shows you the alternate reality, basically. So it doesn't show her at the birthday party, it shows her the now, the day today, but had she made that, you get it. And you can use it 7 times because why not? And it's just her sort of like going through using it each time and seeing what the consequences of decisions that she could have made are, because it can't show you what decisions, like if you say, oh, what if I do this instead of this, but you've not made the choice yet, it has to be something you've made the choice over. But it shows kind of where you can, I don't know, it's so hard to explain, but it's such a great concept and it is so well executed. I am stunned that this is Melanie Murphy's first piece of fiction because it is written beautifully. The characters all seemed real, the writing was great, the gran was just peak, and I just loved it. Again, there is grief in this, and a few different things that maybe if certain things trigger you, I would avoid. So maybe just look at that if you are planning on reading it, but if you do, please let me know, because I really think this is an underrated work of fiction. The next thing I read was Our Lady of Mysterious Ailments by Tail Hoochoo. Unfortunately, this was a bit of a disappointment for me. I really enjoyed The Library of the Dead, but this just didn't live up to the first book. Basically, the cliffhanger-esque area that we left the first book on was completely irrelevant for this one. It was almost as if it never happened. As a standalone, this book was really good. I really enjoyed it. As a standalone, this book would have been a 4.5 star, but because of the way the author seems to just ignore what happened in the first book, I had to give this a lower rating, which was disappointing because I love the characters and I love the interactions that the characters have. This is basically our main character, Ropa, is a ghost talker, so she can talk to ghosts and she passes on messages for money as like a part of business, because magic is real in this world and witches exist, and it is a futuristic Edinburgh, but there's been like climate disasters and things like that. So for example, there's like a seawall in Edinburgh because the waters have risen so much. They're back to like horse and cart and things like that because energy is so hard to come by, etc, etc. The first book follows Ropa as she takes on a job to find the child of one of the ghosts and discovers this whole thing that's happening with someone who's stealing children. That is the thing that's completely ignored. This goes into Ropa sort of opening into the society of witchcraft in Edinburgh and becoming the apprentice to one of the other characters and sort of trying to work out what's going on with this one particular, again, it's almost like a snapshot of like a mystery, like an episode of Scooby-Doo. This one wrapped up nicely, so the next one should be fine. I don't know if I'll read the next one, just because I'm so disappointed, but I feel like they've done a disservice to the previous book, which is unfortunate, but I still enjoyed it. Next up was a book that I DNF'd and that thoroughly upset me, and that was The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This is a book about 2 sisters who are twins, and they are very light-skinned black girls. They live in this, or they are from this town called Mallard, which is in somewhere in America, I think in the south, and basically this is a black town, so it started off as like a black parcel of land that was given to them when they were freed as slaves way back when, and through the years these people have decided that they want to breed themselves white almost, as far as I can explain it. So they have been specifically making matches and having children to ensure that the children are lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. One of the things that's said in this is nobody in Mallard marries dark. So they've got this whole, it's a whole thing about colorism in the black community, and basically they think more of you if you are lighter skinned, and these twins are very light skinned, and so one of them decides to pass as a white woman and goes off and lives her life as a white woman, and the other marries the darkest man she can find and has a baby with him, and she comes back, and that's about as far as I got. I didn't even get to meet the sister. They ran away when they were 16. The way this is written, my brain couldn't keep a grip of what was going on, because it would switch between timelines every paragraph, and I was really struggling to keep up with who was where and what we were doing, who we were talking about, and what age they were, and that sort of thing. And it's a real shame, because I have this gorgeous copy of the book. Like, oh, it's so beautiful. So yeah, these will be getting unhauled and sold on. I think I'm definitely going to try and sell this one, because look at it. But this one I'll probably just put to the library or something, see if one of my friends wants it. But like, this is so pretty. Like, I'm so upset. I am so upset. This is one of the most beautiful books I think I own. And that blue is just fantastic. It doesn't look quite the same colour on screen. It's a little bit more green in real life, but oh my god, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And it hurts me very, very much that I did not like this book. Next up, I finally read a Schwab long book in the month that I was meant to read it. So I read This Savage Song by V. Schwab. This one was very similar for me to The Near Witch, which was the first book we read for Schwab Long, and it was written very similarly, I thought. This is about a world where the US is in a dystopian type future, and there's lots of territories, and this is about Verity, which is the city, V-City, where monsters exist, and monsters are bred from violence. So if you kill someone, a monster is created through that. And there are 3 different types of monster depending on the type of violence. So there's the Corsai, who are basically like, they live in the shadows and they have teeth and claws and they want to rip and break, and they're really creepy. They have like a hive mind. And then you've got the Malkai, who are like, they look like vampires. They're like tall and thin, pale. You can see their bones like dark through their skin, and they don't have a hive mind, and they're more sort of cognitively aware, as it were, and they're the ones you kind of need to look out for, because they will like kill you. And then there are the Sunai, which are very rare. There are only 3 Sunai because they come from disaster. So like mass killings is what breeds a Sunai, and they kill people. They can only kill people who have committed acts of violence. And they basically suck out their souls. Or if they go dark, they destroy whatever is around them. So this is about our main character, who is called August Flynn, who is a Sunai and lives with the Flynn family on the south end of V-City, and Kate, who is the daughter of Callum Harker, who is in charge of the north side of the city. And August is asked by his dad to try and get close to Kate when she goes to the school in North City, because she got kicked out of her last one. And Kate figures out who he is, and they're like, stuff goes down, and they run away together to save their lives and things like that. I really enjoyed this. It was a very slow start. I felt like most of the book was set up, and then there was a bit of action, and then it stopped. So not my favourite. Give it 4-star. Definitely looking forward to reading the next one. But yeah, I love August. I love August as a character. He's probably my favourite. And Ilsa, I love Ilsa. She's a cinnamon roll. I love her so much. And lastly, this is kind of it's not a lie or a cheat, but I'm not finished yet. And that is The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. This is the next in the sort of Percy Jackson universe. So this is the Heroes of Olympus. So this follows on straight from the last of the Percy Jackson, the Olympians. I'm this far through so far. I will be finishing this tonight. Today is in fact the 28th, so I will be finishing this tonight, come hell or high water, and that will be the last book that I read in February. This basically follows our 3 main characters. So you've got Leo, Piper, and Jason, and Jason just appears on the school bus one day when they're going on a trip, but they have memories of him, and Jason has no idea who he is. They're attacked, they get taken to Camp Half-Blood and explain to them what's going on, that, you know, they're demigods, you've got godly parents, blah 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 blah, but there's also the issue that Percy is missing, and Annabeth is trying to find Percy. So a quest comes up and these three are sent on the quest while Annabeth hunts for Percy. So you get to know Piper, Leo and Jason in this. This all leads up to the second great prophecy that was given at the end of I can't remember what the last one was called in the Percy Jackson series, but it was this comes after, so it's the next great prophecy, and you get a really cool mashup. He's starting to introduce Roman mythology into this, which I think is just, I've read this before, so I know what happens, but I just love the little dips in and out of, like, Jason's like, oh yeah, you mean Jupiter, and they're like, no, Zeus. And he's like, oh yes, of course, yes, Zeus, yeah. And they're like, oh my god, Zeus's wife is missing. Oh, Juno, no, Hera. Yes, of course, Hera, not Juno. Juno's the, why did I say Juno? You know, it's that sort of like teaser thing, and I love it so much. But yeah, I'm this far in. It's really, this is only taking me a little bit to read, so I will be flying through this once I actually get down to it, because I've had a busy evening so far. So yeah, that is all I've read in February. I am so thrilled with that. That is so many books. I've done better months, but I'm so happy. Most of these books came off my TBR. I think only a couple were rereads. So I've got two reread, two ebooks and one library book, but one of the ebooks is also going to be on my TBR because I've pre-ordered it. So that is a lot of books to come off my TBR. That's 9, 10 if you count the Ali Hazelwood books coming off of my TBR. So I'm thrilled. I actually, with This Savage Song, I hit 90% read on my library. So all of these books behind me are read. My cart over there, which is overflowing a bit, is my unread books. I now officially have 75 unread books on my TBR. I'm so happy about that, and I plan to knock more off next month in March, when I will see you for Marvelathon. By the time you see this, it will already be started. So if you're on team New Gen, nice to have you on the team, and I hope we will be able to beat OG. If you're on team OG, just my condolences, because we will be wiping the floor with you. So yeah, that is my February TBR, that's my February wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. I've got links and all that good stuff in the description below that'll get you free trials and money off things, so please have a look at that, and it does also help me. And if you are joining with Marvelathon, please let me know. Please let me know what team you're on. Please say New Gen, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.